Well, welcome here, Teachers on Fire. Good morning. My name is Tim Cavey. As you just saw there, I'm an 8th grade teacher, assistant principal, and the host of the Teachers on Fire podcast. I'm so excited to be connecting with 3 caffeinated coaches this morning, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting with Becky.
Hey everyone, my name is Becky Colling. I'm an instructional coach in Southern California.
Thanks, Becky. And Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I am a high school English and speech teacher, as well as a technology coach and English department chair in Central California.
All right. Also on the West Coast. And Georgina.
Greetings from the future. Well, the future of these 3 wonderful folks. My name is Georgina Dean. I'm working as Director of Learning Technology for a K-12 nonprofit school on the other side of the world in Amman, Jordan, in the Middle East.
It is so awesome that we are connecting clear across the planet right now. I'm so excited to get into that. Well, thank you to all of you who are joining us. We've got Brian and Tim and Melissa. Becky's chiming in as well. That's awesome. So let's get right into it. First of all, ladies, let's start with the most important question of the day. What's your go-to cup of coffee? Georgina, what's your favorite?
My favorite cup of coffee is Pike Place from Starbucks. I'm a Starbucks fan at heart. So yeah, nice black piping hot coffee.
That's exactly what I'm drinking right here. And of course, drivable, I've visited Seattle. I've been to the Pike Market as well. And so that's always a favorite. Right on. Shannon, anything more interesting than a black Pike?
Here's the thing is black coffee is my go-to, but when I'm feeling like extra fancy or, sassy that day, I'll probably get a peppermint mocha. But it's very, very important that there's no whipped cream and no foam. I have texture issues, okay. But I do enjoy a peppermint mocha year round, not just in the holiday season.
Yeah, I'm with you on not wanting to drink through the foam. That's no fun. Becky.
So I'm not too exciting with my coffee. I just drink black coffee. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but I'll be honest. And I put this out the other day. I ran out of coffee and I told myself to go to the store and I still haven't gone. So I am stuck today with iced coffee. I'm never out of iced coffee. I have boxed iced coffee in the fridge at all times, but I'm thrown off because it's not hot today.
All right. Well, that would be a first for me. Iced coffee in the morning. Ouch. Oh, that just doesn't get it done. Now, I know in different parts of the States, you don't necessarily sweeten your tea, but I'm sure you sweeten your coffee, right? Your iced coffee.
Oh, no.
No, black coffee all the way, cold or hot.
I added milk, but like some oat milk, but no sweetener to the iced coffee.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Once in a while, I like to go sweet and maybe treat myself, but by and large, it's just black is the way to go. Well, I want to hear more about the professional connections that you share. How did this fantastic friendship come about? It's pretty unusual. I noticed you right away when I saw you pop up on Twitter as these 3 caffeinated coaches. So, Becky, how did the 3 of you come together? How did you connect?
Yeah, so actually Twitter brought us together. We've never met in person. And so through Twitter and different groups, we have connected and just grown a friendship out of it, and eventually got to the point we were like, hey, we want to do something more and let's start a podcast. And Georgina had the brilliant idea of bringing in a book study podcast. So it all came through social media, and one of the benefits, I guess we could say silver linings of the pandemic, was that we were able to find the time to come together, the 3 of us.
That is one of the silver linings I find of the pandemic. And on the one hand, we're stuck at home for considerable amounts of time. And in a way, don't you find it's like unmotivating to actually be productive and do these awesome things? And then I've even been reading lately about pandemic guilt, right? About I've got all this time, I should be doing like the best things of my life. But on the other hand, yes, we've been able to actually do, as you are evidence, do some of these cool projects. Well, I want to move on to the podcast and tell us a little bit more about maybe your mission on the pod and what did it take to overcome the fears that you must have had to hit publish? I was just talking to someone the other day who said, I've been sitting on this podcast forever, but I want to make sure when I do publish that I do it well. But I think that holds so many people back. So, Shannon, how did you overcome those fears or those concerns and just say, we're giving this thing a go?
It is an interesting dynamic what we have here amongst the three of us. Like we are all very different, but one thing that does unite us together is passion. And I think that passion ultimately is what kind of pushes away the imposter syndrome, and the beauty of having three rather than just one is I have two amazing women in education who come alongside me. And anytime any of us have those moments of, we're not certain, we have the other two to really, lean upon and encourage the anxieties away. And so I think really ultimately what it comes down to is when you put passionate people together who feel empowered to change the face of education and coaching and leading and mentoring, there really is no stopping it, right? And when I personally struggle with the risk taking, I know that I have both Georgina and Becky to spur me on. And so I think that is unique about the group here. Strong women, with strong ideas, really feeling good about moving forward. And so, there are times where we falter. That's the reality of it. There's times of uncertainty. There's times of, is this going to work? And I'm going to throw it over to Georgina to really kind of talk about the book study. And, it is a unique thing. So I know that there was some timidity there at first, but we're moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kudos to Shannon and Becky. We are a trio and 3 strong cups of coffee coming at you bi-weekly on our podcast. So let us know what has been your favorite episode so far in the chat. Would love to hear from you guys. Gerardo's just joined, so good morning. I think good morning now for Gerardo, or good afternoon maybe. But yeah, the book study. So really, really excited about this portion of the podcast. I do believe it's the first of the industry. If anybody finds that there was another one before this one, then always let us know for sure. But that's pretty epic in and of itself. But yeah, we basically want to just continue our lifelong learning journey together through reading and sharing and growing and how to become better leaders, coaches, and mentors. So the idea is to basically discover and uncover, I guess, a bunch of strategies and helpful support that's going to help leaders in their education roles, which will be very vast across the globe, in becoming better leaders. So dive in with us. We're currently studying How to Lead. Here is the book, which I have right here. So How to Lead by Joe Owen on this side. There we go. And yeah, so we are just finishing up part 2. So check out the podcast episode release for part 2 coming at you in just a couple of weeks. We do basically a slow book study chat. And so there's a Google slide deck that we share with people who are interested to sign up, and they get to share their takeaways and how they can apply the different things from the book. And that's been probably my favorite part, is being able to celebrate actually how awesome everybody in our community is doing as leaders already. So celebrate is definitely one of my favorite 3 pillars. But yeah, so that gives you a little bit of a breakdown, not too deep, but yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for that. So, and I sort of had to get that straightened out in my mind. So you alternate on the podcast between the book study and these conversations around education. Just listen to Becky and Shannon talking about all of the hats that we wear and sort of the layered responsibilities and what that looks like to sort of take some on, take some off. Is balance even a thing? Really interesting stuff. Georgina, I want to go back to the question about hitting publish. Did you have any fears about going live and sharing your voice out there, or is this familiar territory for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, to ask me, because I do consider myself a very confident education leader in many fronts. And one thing that I was concerned about was, because I was going to be being solo for the time being for this book study, that my voice would overpower everybody else's. And I was very hesitant to share, my own takeaways and to add to the basket, I guess, of ideas that were on the Google slide deck. So I would say that it took me, we were talking about this after with Becky and Shannon, I'd say that it took me about like 20 minutes into the podcast before I felt like, okay, I'm going to add, because this is a great opportunity for me to share things that are going well in my neck of the woods as well. So yeah, you want to have that balance so as to not steal the limelight. But then the whole reason of us being on this podcast is to share and advocate for the message that we're really passionate about too, right? So it requires a fine balance. So it was a good question, Tim.
I may have missed it, but to me, I'm sure you would share this sentiment, the three of you, that to me, it's so exciting in terms of a growth mindset when you lean into new spaces that scare you a little bit, spaces that you're not totally familiar with. For me, this space that we're in right now was something kind of scary and unfamiliar a few months ago, but I just told myself I'm going to try to learn one more thing every week, every conversation, and try to do one thing better. And that's the way I look at the podcast as well, and just about any kind of content creation. So very, very fun. And I do love that idea of the book study, Georgina. I've often thought, now let me know about this. How have educators resonated with the supposed pressure of the book study, or just keeping up with it? Has that been an issue at all, or has it been sustainable so far?
Yeah, this is a really good one. I'm going to pass this over to Becky to start, and I will finish, but that's a really good question.
So I actually have been super impressed with the responses. And I was the one, as we were coming up with questions, I was like, oh, this is too much. We've got to Georgina and Shannon were kind of laughing at me, and they were like, no, it's not. And I was like, no one wants to sit there for hours and answer all of these questions. And this is a lot to put on people. And so I pushed back, and we had a great conversation ahead of time. And then once we went live, I guess you'd say, with the questions, it was amazing. The responses we got definitely showed that it wasn't too much. People were excited to engage in the work and to really be able to share their thoughts and their takeaways from the chapters. And knowing that this book isn't an education book, it's like more corporate, I guess you could say, they were able to tie in those connections. So overall, I don't see the pressure happening with those around us. I've actually seen more of people pushing us to dive deeper, and pushing Georgina, because she's the one doing the recording of the session, to take that deeper dive. And it's been amazing, the community we've built so far.
Very, very fun. I've often wondered if there's more room for these kinds of conversations. So thank you for pioneering that. I don't know how many others are out there, but I love the idea. I'd love to get more involved. I do think back to a book study I tried to follow along with on Voxer. Are the three of you on Voxer? Okay. And yeah. I just found when I started to fall behind with the reading, I just dropped off. I was like too embarrassed to show up, because I'm like, I'm lost. I can't keep up. But as long as I just feel like as long as it's doable, if everyone feels like it's doable, then can be a ton of fun. Well, I want to shift gears rapidly. We're going to make a big pivot here, if you're okay with that. I know you're all sort of familiar with, to varying degrees, the Google for Education environment. They recently announced a number of changes and improvements coming to their suite of learning tools. So based on what you've seen so far, is there anything that gets you excited? Shannon?
Here's the reality. All of us are coaches. And so, yeah, we are aware of the Google for Education platform and products. And we dive in. Many of us use Google products at our school. But, and so, yes, there are a few that I'm really excited about. But I also want to point out that we are huge advocates for, not being single-minded when it comes to platforms. And, tech agility is really, really important to us. And so we, our excited about a bunch of different things. If I had to narrow in on one kind of update, I would say I'm pretty excited about the fact that forms are going to be savable, and students won't need to complete those in one fell swoop. And I think that it really does open the door for our students to take a little bit more time rather than, feel like they need to get it all out right then and there, especially for exit and entrance tickets. So that one, and, I'll pass it over. I'm sure the other two are excited about pieces, but yeah, I'm also really excited. I'm going to throw it out there. I really love Adobe for Education. I'm a big fan of that. And just recently I discovered that on their platforms, you can collaborate kind of across product. And so that's super exciting. I know Georgina and I are excited to play on Fresco together with that. So
when you say across product, you mean within one app at a time though, right?
So yeah.
Yeah.
Photoshop or Illustrator or Fresco or whatever. Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, hopping to a different one, I do want to come back to Google, but I collaborated with John Sowash in Canva in sort of that real-time collab space, a Google Doc style. And I sort of knew that was out there and hadn't experienced it. Man, is that ever smooth. That was just really, really impressive. Have not done that in the Adobe environment yet. So yes, don't want to leave out our friends at Microsoft and Adobe and these other platforms. I don't know. I guess I'm just asking from my personal bias. I love the Google environment. Georgina or Becky, is there anything there that you've noticed besides the form draft saving?
Georgina, are you okay if I jump in on this one for a second and pass it over to you? So for me, I am at a Google for Education district, right? So that's our main platform that we use. And as an instructional coach, there have been a lot of requests that have come my way. Teachers will often, instead of hitting that feedback button, they send it to me, and then I go and hit the feedback button for them, right? Which is fine because my role really is to support. But what I'm most excited to bring back to teachers is the accessibility features that have become available. The abilities to be able to bold text in classroom and italicize, to be able to end a meet for all elementary districts. That's a big accessibility feature that we need. We don't need students in a space unsupervised. And so just being able to take that back to teachers as a coach and say, hey, not only did I listen and I support by sending in your request, obviously I didn't make the change, but I am able to follow up with you. And so it has been exciting for me to see all of the new accessibility features, especially forms, which Shannon brought up. That one is, that's going to be a game changer. But that's been my biggest thing, is being able to go back and say, look, they did listen, and these changes are coming your way, and I'm here to support in implementing the change.
It's not like I'm in Google Forms all the time, but I definitely know, I'm in a Chromebook middle school environment. And so when we do use forms and, maybe the bell goes or somebody has to close their Chromebook for some reason, that is such a point of frustration, that idea of losing everything. And that frustration applies to teachers too, because sometimes our admins push things out and, you're thoughtfully going through a form, and then if there's no way to save it, that can be really, really difficult. So thank you, Google, for solving that one, or the solve is on the way. The solution's on the way, I understand. Georgina, is there anything else? I know there are a few other changes that caught my attention, but no pressure here. But is there anything else that you're excited about?
Yeah, no worries. So Becky definitely hit the Google Meet on the nail. For us here in the Middle East, we're prone to getting power cuts. And so when you've got a class full of students that are inside the Google Meet and the power goes down, it definitely helps for admins to be able to go in and support the closing of the Google Meet very safely, keeping everyone safe. So that's really important. And I guess the other Google Admin Console updates are really exciting for myself as well, as I'm supporting the schools with their digital transformation and training the IT team. So this is going to be really key in supporting that aspect as well. The final thing that I'm really excited about that hasn't been mentioned are all the new Chromebooks that are coming out. So I believe the number was 40, if I'm not mistaken, new Chromebooks. And we're actually currently journeying towards becoming the first Google reference school in Jordan. And so this comes at a very exciting time for our school.
When you say 40 new Chromebooks coming out, are you talking about from all different manufacturers, or can you explain that?
So basically, part of the release that's coming out later is that they're going to release brand new Chromebooks. I don't have all the details because they're not all accessible here in the Middle East, which is a whole other can of worms that we won't get into. But definitely, we can definitely drop a link to the updates and the blog updates on Chrome and the Chrome App Hub and all of those links so that people can look into the Chromebooks if they're interested.
All right, cool. Cool. Very cool. And shout out to all of our educators in Jordan. We're going to have a Jordan show at some point, or maybe a Middle East show, because we've got a few great followers from the UAE as well. Well, I want to move into question 6 as we talk about your work in the areas of coaching, leadership, and professional development. What else is setting you on fire in education right now? I sort of agonized over this one because I thought, I want to talk to these ladies about so many different things in these spaces. So why don't you just take it in any direction you want? What's kind of on your mind right now, Becky?
Oh, wow. Okay. This one's a big question because really, honestly, so much is on my mind. So if we're going to be talking about coaching, leadership, professional development, all of that happening, for me, the biggest thing is the shift in education and the hope that although this last year has been crazy, my hope is that we can take some of these new skills and find ways to better implement them and to transform what teaching was prior to March of last year. It's been an entire year. My district's just now going back. And so for me, I'm most excited to be able to support in that change and be part of the change instead of looking back and saying, oh, I can't wait till we go back to the old times. So that's a broad answer, I know, but it's broad because I don't know what the future holds and I don't know what that change is going to look like, but I am most excited to be part of it and to be open to it and learn with all of you and learn with educators around the world. So I don't have a great solid response.
Well, that's totally fine. You touched on a couple of interesting things there. So we're not yearning for a return to normal. We're sort of in a new normal, and we're moving into another new normal. And okay, let me narrow this down then, Becky, before we move on to Shannon. And that is in the space you're all involved in professional development. Obviously, you're coaches. That's the nature of your podcast. Do you see just the nature of professional development in general changing? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's something I've been pushing a lot. So I'm glad you asked me this. The need for, just like we say, students, they don't all learn the same way, right? And we need to meet the needs of all students. We need to do the same with educators. And so pushing out prior to last March, all PD in my district was done where you would come to room 104, you would sit down for the training, and you might get a fun icebreaker, something like that, but it was all face-to-face. And so now we're moving into the time where we can have self-paced courses. We can have podcast PDs where you could actually get credit in a lot of different states for listening to podcasts and responding that way. We're able to meet in, I'm the worst with names, so don't laugh at me. But what we're meeting in after this, that program that's brand new.
Clubhouse,
thank you. We're able to meet in Clubhouse now and collaborate that way. And Voxer was mentioned. We have seriously taken PD face-to-face to a whole new level, and we can gain so much more out of it. I'm really excited and could go on and on about this, but the ways that PD is going to transform and change genuinely excite me.
I did my master's thesis a couple of years ago on the impact of podcasting on professional development and looking at how that actually impacts practice in the classroom, which obviously is really exciting to me. But even in the 2 years since I did my research, I mean, things are continuing to explode. You mentioned courses, Clubhouse, these other forums and asynchronous tools that we have at our disposal. It's just incredible. And, I miss conferences dreadfully because I don't think there's any replacing that in-person interaction. But I think in terms of sustaining professional development and growth over time, you can't, we're just in a really, really cool space. We're in a bit of a golden age, I think, right now. Shannon, what else comes to mind for you? I'll put up the question again, just in terms of coaching, leadership, Pro D. I hope we didn't steal your thunder, but what else is setting you on fire about education right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, all of that, the idea of flipping the professional development makes me excited, but I'm gonna take it a different direction. I am finding that, yeah, this has been an incredibly challenging time for so many educators to really, adapt to what, the virtual space is requiring. We are 100% virtual, and we have been since March. We're having the rumblings of potentially going back in a hybrid model, but what I've noticed between first semester and second semester is largely the risk taking that educators are willing to do. I feel like a lot of educators have gotten their feet wet with what virtual learning requires. They're really diving into different platforms. And as a coach, I'm getting a lot of individuals reaching out asking for, okay, what's next? I've mastered Jamboard. Now you've talked about interactive slides for a semester, and I haven't, been, ready for it, but I'm ready. And so really having that desire to, really enhance their technological know-how has been inspiring to watch at our site, just because I think that educators are realizing that what was fine, but really what could be is incredible. I was listening last night to the Vietnam Tech Conference that went on yesterday, and the keynote was talking about this idea of, a lot of educators have this idea of success, right? I'm doing something in my classroom and it's working. I'm being successful at it, right? Kids are learning. And the keynote suggested that's great, but what about relevancy? As times are shifting in education, as society is changing and evolving, and we're moving into, these different modern times, maybe what worked in, 20 years ago works, but is it relevant to the learners? And I am the first to say that it's important as educators and coaches to be mindful of the fact that, these are our stakeholders. We need to lend to, their interests. I think that's the number one way to engage students. And so I'm just really excited that, educators are taking those risks, reevaluating their practices, and more than anything, reaching out and saying, we are better together. And so, let's do this. So that's exciting for me.
Techie Leader says, hats off to Craig Kemp and his inspiring keynote this morning. All right. Well, Craig Kemp is in Singapore. All right. Okay. And I just listened to his podcast this week. So wow, what a global village. I got to say, nothing new, but it's just incredible. Georgina, over to you. What else is setting you on fire? What else can you add to that conversation?
Well, there's lots, so we get to pick and choose. We have, no, but seriously, there is loads to be celebrating and tackling together with stakeholders across education and globally as well. Creativity is something that I'm super, super passionate about. And I'd like to take that up to the next level, creative leadership. What does that look like? How does that support creativity across K-12 curriculum? How does it support students to be in creation mode instead of consumption mode? How does it support critical problem solving in collaborative ways? So this is something I'm super excited about. And I'm also really, really excited about recently putting in an application for a team of educators for my school that I'll be leading, hopefully, if the application is approved, on an AI exploration. So artificial intelligence is here. It is currently being spotted across education in many different forms. And how can we really harness the power so that we can help make processes in education more efficient, more productive, so that we can actually start to focus on what's really important, which is student centricity with learning at the heart of everything. So I'm really, really excited to be part of that, hopefully. So fingers crossed for me, guys.
Student centricity. That's a term. I'm going to make that a new buzzword. I like that a lot. And that fits nicely with what we do here around student agency and choice and voice. I have a question that is completely unscripted, but it struck me that you're all involved in these spaces of professional development. We're talking about conferences around the world. What have been your best virtual conference experiences in terms of platforms? I kind of have a motivation for asking, but I put out this question and sometimes I get Zoom back. I know there are different levels of Zoom, but Is there, some of the big names are Hopin and Digitel, and there are a few others have come up in my journey, but it strikes me that you three would be some of the very best people I could ask that question. Georgina, what's a platform that you've had a great experience with, either as a presenter or an attendee?
Yeah, that would be a super great question. And I'm having a Becky moment where it's not going to come to my
Sure.
brain right when you ask me, but it's basically the platform that ISTE use. I've had really successful conferences presenting and also attending ISTE CCL, ISTE Live 20, and it's soon to be ISTE Live 21, where they have different spaces, like exhibitors can go hang out, so you can go and talk to them and learn about products that are going to impact real change in education. Then you have your live space, and then you have your workouts and your what's the word I'm looking for? Not workout. Workshops, that's the word. Different kind of workshops, and also your creation lab. So platforms that inspire different creative spaces could definitely be beneficial for conferences. And I'll go look at it while the others answer to get you the name.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's about like replacing those interactive, like thinking about ISTE, and I was fortunate enough to attend once, but replacing those hallways and those experimental spaces and the conversations and I can't remember the names of all their different themed areas, but Shannon, what comes to mind for you? What's been really a great experience?
You know what? I'm going to be in the same boat. I'm a real big fan of Zoom, but I attended a conference last summer, and it's actually what got me kind of to first connect with the EduTwitter, get back on board with that. I cannot remember the platform name either, but it was a 24-hour conference that a colleague of mine helped kind of put together, and I loved it so much because the space, kind of like, Georgina mentioned with ISTEs, was broken out into kind of areas. So you would have the gym, the classroom, the cafeteria, etc. So it was so like maybe a little, cliche, whatever. But I love the idea that it was focused in on like the educational realm in the world. And within that, it was very clearly like aligned. The platform was easy to navigate. I'm going to find this, and I'm going to go ahead, and once I figure that out, I'll tag you on Twitter and let you know so that we can blast that out to the world. But I think anytime, like Georgina mentioned, you can have a space that has its very specific areas, and it makes it accessible and easy. Like instead of going to this room, like this Zoom link or this Google Meet, like you're going to go to the cafeteria and there's a link and you can just click and it takes you to that space, and it's all self-contained. And I think that that's really important. One thing I did like about ISTE though was the Easter egg hunt. I was able to attend thanks to a contest I won through Unity. So shout out to Unity. But I was able to hunt for Easter eggs. And the coolest thing about that, Tim, this was the best part. Obviously the learning was the best part, but I was able to connect with educators all over the world. And because we decided to like form an egg hunting group to win the competition, we were able to meet up. We did a ton of video meetup on the ISTE platform. So it was pretty unique and pretty awesome to connect that way.
That is super cool. Becky, is it ISTE for you as well? Or have you had a different experience that was really positive?
So I am going to be the outcast here who's never been to ISTE, but I'm going and presenting this year, so I'm super excited. But no, it's not. I would actually say SCED has been a great one, which we used with a couple of, I've attended or presented at with a couple of different conferences, and I like that it's broken up by color and by room and all of that. And then with TCEA and IdeaCon, which is still going on this month, but TCEA, they joined up. It's been a nice collaboration. They've been using digital tech support, or the digital tech platform, I guess you could say. Maybe it's Digitel. Ooh, I'm not quite sure, but I should check on that. But it has been wonderful. They do have the different cafeterias you can go into, and you can move from table to table, and like tables are labeled with coaches or teachers. And so it's been nice to just go in there and chat with people, or to be able to see, hey, if you are an elementary teacher, click here and we'll give you a nice layout of a schedule that you might enjoy following. So I've liked both of those. I like any platform that doesn't require just Zoom or just Meet or just one thing, but instead says we're going to use all of these. And I like that a lot of them are incorporating that physical component, like IdeaCon and TCA have been doing a walking challenge. So those things like that are fun.
That is super cool. I had a bit of a tour of the TCEA platform, and it looks so good. I don't know if that's beatable, but it sounds like ISTE has a great format as well. I want ISTE to bring down their prices a little bit. Come on, for a virtual conference, that's got to be a little bit cheaper, but that's just my own take. Margaret says, Manitoba's ASCD first virtual webinar series was a wonderful learning experience. Yeah, I'm just so interested in that space and what that looks like. I even think, something as simple as this platform within a local districts would work just fine too. And it brings about that interaction, right, with teachers possibly in different schools or from home or whatever. Well, thank you for venturing with me onto that tangent. That was really helpful. I want to start to wrap up, but first of all, we're going to ask this question. Who's inspiring you right now? Who are you learning from? I know the list could be so long, so try to keep this to one or two names, I guess, but yeah, each other, of course. But Becky, when I asked you that question, who are some of the people that jump to mind? And again, the more we list, the more we leave out, and the more feelings we hurt. So we'll just leave it to one or two. But who's that person for you right now?
Right now, it would be two teachers in my district are truly inspiring me, and they'll be comfortable with me calling them out. So Angela Metz and Ann Sustor. They are a 3rd grade and a 5th grade teacher in Newhall School District. Neither of them are on Twitter. They are inspiring me right now because they both have not been the most excited about integrating technology into their classrooms. And in the last couple of months, they've reached out and asked for book studies, asked for extra support. Now they're saying, hey, we've come up with some great ideas for redesigning lessons. We're using the 4 Shifts protocols by Scott McLeod and Julie Gaver. Julie, I apologize if I said your last name wrong. We've been utilizing that and to redesign lessons and share those out with the district, and they've been recording their lessons. It's just been a beautiful transition, and their innovation and excitement for learning during all of this inspires me.
What an awesome shout out. Love that. And yes, another silver lining just has been the growth in teachers over this last year. Incredible. Shannon, what about you? Who jumps to mind?
Well, I would say in real life, although I've never met him, somebody that's really been inspiring me lately has been Alfonso Mendoza, my ed tech life. Here's the thing is I have gone on my own creativity journey, spurred by actually Georgina. And, I've really decided that I am a creative educator and I'm going to live and walk in that. And it's been awesome to really see Alfonso and come alongside him and see him stretch his wings recently. And he started his podcast and he continues to do lives and he continues to really reach out. And the thing about Alfonso and the reason why I'm so inspired by Fonz is his just absolute kindness for everybody. He treats every single human that he encounters like they're the most important person in the world in that moment. And so I love that he's taking his own creativity journey, and I also love that he is just doing the podcast thing and paving the way like you are for us podcasters as well. As far as somebody I don't know, I'm going to say somebody that I'm constantly inspired by is James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. Read that this year. Completely changed my mindset and view about life and perspective on how to live my life. And every single day, just constantly coming back and being reminded of the concepts and ideas that he posed. And so James Clear, this is a shout out to you. Thank you so much for writing that book. It really has, transformed who I am and what I do every single day. So.
He is such an inspiration to me too, just as a creator, and that consistency over time and the way just simply applying yourself to study a particular area and sort of make yourself an expert. And he really has become that. he's such a widely respected voice, and his numbers are just staggering. But do you subscribe to his newsletter, Shannon?
Yeah, it's
it's like
amazing.
it's like some of the best value you'll ever see in a newsletter every week without fail. It's
Yep.
just great things to think about. Georgina, one or two people from you, who's inspiring you?
I'm going to follow along a little bit from Shannon and say Simon Sinek. I recently listened to some of his new stuff and shared it on a conference that I participated with in Mexico this past week. And just this man just comes up with the greatest leadership innovation ever, and I'm always inspired. I've read his book several times. Love watching him on video on YouTube, and yeah, so really inspired by Simon Sinek on the daily. And then the other people that are inspiring me are all the stakeholders in the education community. So shout out to the students who are showing up every day for their lessons when I'm sure they may possibly be bored of online learning, be bored of being in front of a camera. They just want to feel like they want to be in their own skin with their friends. So shout out to the students who are showing up every day and bringing their best. Shout out to the educators who are showing up every day with their best and their brand new hat of tricks on the daily just to support engagement in this very difficult, challenging time. And to the leaders in that community. I kind of took it a bunch into one. I'm sure you're not happy with that, Tim, but I do want to shout out everybody, especially the leaders, guys, because they're probably in the most difficult positions right now. They're having to make really difficult decisions on what to do with hybrid, in-person, online. They're having to do it on the fly, literally, sometimes in other languages. You know, the governments down here give us that information in Arabic. They're having to get it translated, make a decision. Does it match the ministries? Does it match the other international schools here? It is difficult, and everybody's going through their own set of circumstances. So shout out to the leaders. We empathize with you. We may not always show it. If you're an educator in the classroom, it's not always transparent, but you know, shout out to them. They're doing really amazing things in really difficult circumstances.
Georgina, give us a sense of COVID and learning during COVID in Jordan. I'm sure there's a ton you could say, but is it face-to-face or entirely virtual? Is it hybrid? What does it look like right now?
Yeah,
apologies if I missed this from earlier.
Yeah, no worries at all. So it takes a little bit of different it's different. It's constantly changing. So we were online learning, and then we did a re-entry at the beginning of this school year. And when numbers started to skyrocket again, we returned to online learning around October, beginning of November. And then we just started to rephase a second entry in the month of February. So we're going through our second re-entry. Students are social distance. Everybody's wearing masks, even the young ones in early elementary or primary. And if there's a case of COVID, you know, they close the class down for 14 days, make sure everybody gets tested. So it's really safe. I would even say, like, shout out to the current school that I'm working at, because they're taking what the ministry has asked us to do, and they've actually made it even safer. So they're taking those extra protocols just to make sure that we can stay open as long as possible for students to come in and experience that. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it really does vary from district to district and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I'm here in the Canadian province of British Columbia, and we've been face to face right from September without a break. And we've, you know, in my school of over 800, we've had a couple of small cases reported. And as you said, you know, there were some measures that followed, but generally speaking, I'm in class with the 23 eighth graders every day. And we're all, as you said, we're all wearing masks, but it's gone really well. It's gone better than we feared, you know, back in August. So thankful for that. And I got to say, I really appreciate being with kids, because trying to teach through a screen is tough. It's draining. Well, we're starting to wrap up, but let us know what is next for the Three Caffeinated Coaches podcast. What do your topics look like as you move forward? And where do you go from here? What are some of your dreams and maybe other projects as well? Becky, tell us how we can connect and what's next for you.
Yeah, definitely. So we will continue pushing out episodes every 2 weeks on Wednesday mornings. And again, following that format of Shannon and I, and then one time, and then Georgina with the book study the following time. This summer, though, we do have an exciting new series coming out. So I'm going to let either Shannon or Georgina share a bit more about that series, but definitely want to join us for our little summer mini series that we have. And this is a wonderful question, because what's next? We honestly are three creative minds, and so it's always changing and evolving. And so if I said, oh, it's going to be exactly this next, it might change after we meet on Monday. But I'm going to pass it over to Shannon and Georgina.
That's right. Never promise. Never promise. Shannon.
Yeah, no, that's the beauty of being flexible and being able to kind of do your own thing and be led by passion. What is actually immediately next is we will have a release of our next episode this week. It is our next book study podcast episode. So take a look and be ready for that one. We're going to continue just to do it big on social media. We believe that, connection, we have 3 pillars that we really lead by: celebration, connection, and inspiration. And so connection is really big for us. So please join us on social media. Let's connect that way. We're all very accessible. We love to connect with the individuals that follow us. And you can follow us on Twitter at _3CCS, at _3CCS. So pass it over to Georgina for us.
Well, did someone have 3 CCs on Twitter at 3CC? Okay, shoot. All right. We got to get after that person.
It was years ago too. It's like they haven't been active since like 2008, but you know how that goes. So it's okay. It's okay.
Georgina.
So if there's anything left, you guys need to tune in and you guys need to check out 3CCs. We are on all the social platforms. We have a pretty awesome social media strategy, I guess you could say. We want to interact with you guys. We want to hear from you. Come and share your ideas, your comments, vote in the polls, share your success stories, things that are inspiring you, because we want to keep learning from all of you guys. So I guess the most thing that I'm excited about that's coming up next would be the choice of book that's going to come from our audience. So if you have been tuning in and listening to the book study, and remember guys, the book study is for everybody. It's not just for those who are participating in the Google slide deck. If you find that you're really busy at this time of the year, which is not surprising at all, but you would like to be able to pop on your headphones and listen to the podcast replay, then you're still part of that, guys. And we would love to hear your thoughts and your shares after the fact on any of the platforms. But most importantly, when we get to the end of this book study, we'll be polling out all of our community members to see which book that they would like to dive into next. So I'm really excited for that.
And Georgina, if someone doesn't have the book, they want to hop into the book study, it sounds like they can jump in at any time. Is that right?
Absolutely. And they don't even have to have the book, because we are aware, I guess, especially myself being a global international education leader, books aren't always available in all the mediums in different countries around the world. And that is totally okay. So they can absolutely join the Google slide deck, which is the platform we're using to share our takeaways on. And the questions are pertinent, to education. So the book will give us some ideas that we can apply, but it's also sharing your own ideas. So yeah, guys, book or no book, hop on, share with us your passion for education, and let's learn together.
So good to see some familiar faces here in the comments as we say goodbye. Stephanie Rothstein, great to see you. I'm so lucky to call you friends. You really are amazing. And we've got Gerardo, who's been with us throughout the broadcast. Thank you so much, Gerardo, and Brian and others. Well, I'm going to say, before you completely sign off, make sure to come back next Saturday morning. I'll have another exciting and valuable education conversation here for you. It'll be back to a focus on assessment next week. That's our topic. So join us again next Saturday morning. But until then, make sure to keep on learning. Take care. Share an encouraging word to lift up a colleague during this challenging time, and keep that fire for learning burning bright. Oh, and I'm forgetting one thing, and that is connect with us on Clubhouse. Becky, you and I are going to be there at 9 a.m. Pacific. That's in 9 minutes, whatever time zone you're in. I guess that would be noon Eastern. So Becky's new to Clubhouse. She's agreed to come on with me and experiment there. So if you've been following along with us, either watching or listening, engaging in the comments, why not give this Clubhouse thing a try? If you are on iOS device and you need an invite, just tweet me up. I'll be happy to share one with you. I'll just need your phone number for that. That's just the way this thing works. And yeah, we're going to experiment with another synchronous platform of learning. But I think I've said everything that I need to say. 3 caffeinated coaches, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'm going to enjoy our interactions from this point forward just a little bit more, having interacted with you in real time. And I look forward to doing it in person. That's really going to be what I look forward to. For now, take care and bye-bye.